know as venture capitalists, our role is to figure out what couldn't go right. But I think at some point, we also have to ask ourselves what can go wrong.
Where is your anti-Bitcoin sentiment from?
Well, it started with anti-crypto. I didn't like the grift. I didn't like the speculation. I didn't like the claims that it was decentralized, that it was a store of value, that it was like a currency. Because in each case you could, or that it was anonymous. Because in each case, you can ask a different person in crypto and they would tell you, well, actually, it's not anonymous because we can track it. And they'd say, well, it's decentralized, but actually to get on in the first place, it's centralized. Or that there are whales who own, somebody owns incredible amounts and can swing markets. My comment on the gold thing was against the store of value. It's not supposed to act like that. If it's like gold, obviously it can go back up. I actually think Bitcoin will continue to go up. I think it's the one asset that has the most potential. It was much more against the other types of crypto at the time. The speculation really got to me. And those advocating for it were almost always self-interested. Actually, they were always self-interested. And that bothered me in particular because it was tied up with what I felt is not just personal interest, but a certain kind of ideology of supplanting the current system. And I know as venture capitalists, our role is to figure out what couldn't go right? Always ask that question. And it's somebody else's problem to think of what can go wrong. But I think at some point, we also have to ask ourselves, what can go wrong? And in this case, I saw both. I could see what can go right, but what could go right is also what could go wrong. Meaning if it indeed would supplant the current system where there's no longer an interest rate set by the government because everybody's trading in these virtual currencies, or the stock market was like irrelevant, that is not a world I wanted to live in. And so that's how I reached that conclusion that it's not for me.
Why not? Why don't you want to live in that world?
It's a world that was essentially seeded and capitalized by those that already had capital or took not fair risk early on, buying up an asset, using advertisements to run it up, and now they own a certain percentage of some type of a coin. And that being an asset, I just don't think that's a fair system. It's another feudal type of system where the early ones all of a sudden have power over others. And again, it's a currency. It's a finite currency. It's not a stock that.
But isn't that true? Like in everything, like so there were the early oil barons and the early railroad barons, and then there was De Beers and diamonds, and there was, Rio Tinto and mining, and you got all these people who discovered something, found something. By the way, the Emiratis and the Saudis, by luck of geography, they ended up on top of a large part of the world's oil reserves, and the Qataris, the tiny Qataris who causing a lot of mess in the world right now, landed on a giant gas reserve that they share with the Iranians. So inevitably, there are people either by luck of geography or dint of geography, by dint of innovation, by dint of just good luck or whatever it is, turn up at the beginning of an asset cycle or an innovation cycle and own a lot of it.
I don't agree with those analogies. I mean, oil was not in one place. Nobody thought they had cornered the oil market early. They didn't create the oil market. Oil also had another purpose beyond just an appreciating asset. It was only worth something because it actually was needed.
I mean, we found more use for oil over time, which increased its demand and made it much more valuable. And it takes time to dig oil wells. There ends up always being a lag, at least in the early parts of the market, between demand
I'm all for
supply.
free markets. But
even Bitcoin, right, if you're in Venezuela today or Argentina and you want to get your money out, which is, these are oppressive regimes in Venezuela, and they were inflationary regimes in Argentina until Milei turned up, it was a way to get your money out. That's a valuable use case.
It is. I don't think that Bitcoin was bid up because people wanted to help Venezuelan refugees.
It's fair. In the same way, probably oil wasn't created; it wasn't found initially so it could run automobiles.
It wasn't automobiles, but
engines.
Yeah, they found a purpose for it. Yeah, look, it's not about unfair.
And diamonds. Think about diamonds. Like, what's the value of a diamond? It's like, we created a system called carats, and we created a perfect and a color and whatever it is. It's a narrative around a diamond. Like, you can make them in labs today, and they're the same.
They are, but they're not, as you know. Like, they're not valued the same as real diamonds.
Right, but why? Because it's a story. Because I want a natural diamond. It's just a story.
Yeah, that's fine. If diamonds were the way in which we interacted going forward, we transacted, that would be a problem.
It was for a long time. Like, people would, sew their diamonds into their underwear and, use them to trade.
Yeah. And I think crypto will continue to exist. I fear a world in which crypto dominates our society. It's not so much that it exists at all. I'm not one that advocates for banning it, but it was reaching a crescendo where, to me, it just seemed dangerous. People were plowing all of their savings into these virtual coins and NFTs, and there's a lot of very unhappy people around the world who bought into this.